Welcome and hello. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kelly and I'm going to be your host for today's presentation, How an Agile Supply Chain Can Help Increase Operational Excellence. Each of our webinars addresses a component of the SAP-centric end-to-end supply chain. With each session, we invite you to examine your own supply chain and empower you to use the powerful capabilities already built in SAP. Before we get started with today's presentation, let's discuss how it will proceed. The webinar is going to last approximately 30 to 45 minutes, followed by a question and answer period at the end. Please capture your questions in the question or chat section. And at this point in time, I would like to introduce you to today's speaker, David Carroll. David is an associate partner here and a thought leader at Reveal, and has more than 30 years of supply chain experience. David is an accomplished SAP professional, and his specialties include supply chain integration and transformations. He is an expert in the SAP PP space with more than 15 years of active configuration experience, with additional experience in SAP MM, WM, HU, and QM modules. With that, I'd like to hand over the presentation to you, David, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Well, good afternoon, everybody, or morning or evening, depending on where you are in the world. I'm just going to basically have three things that I want to talk about in this session, which will hopefully enable you to see what it takes to become an agile supply chain, but also not just become an agile supply chain, but then how to use it to drive more efficiency through your supply chain. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about how to become agile. I mean, the seminar, or the webinar, should I say, is called How Can an Agile Supply Chain Help Increase Operational Experience? Well, there's a little caveat there, right, in terms of the fact that we are assuming that you are an agile supply chain. So I'm just going to basically show you exactly how to become agile in about 5 slides. Takes a little bit longer than that, but we'll just go through that anyway. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how it can help with operational excellence, and then I'm going to just basically lay out some key steps that you'll need to take, and then just a little wrap up at the end. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so are you a slave to the urgent at the sacrifice of agility? So what I mean by that is basically, do we react? Do we have true line of sight? Because if you do, then you have the ability to be agile. Okay, I'm not saying that true line of sight makes you agile, it gives you the ability to be agile. Okay, and basically what I'm talking about here is when we talk about becoming an agile supply chain, we have to have certain foundations in place to be able to do so. We're talking about 20, 30 years ago in terms of a supply chain. The QCD model was the big thing in those days. Okay, it was a case of quality, cost, and delivery. Yeah, but nowadays, if you can't produce a quality product at the right cost and then deliver it on time, you shouldn't be in the game at all. The next steps in terms of improving your supply chain are to become the FIB, the flexible, innovative, high-speed supply chain that can react and turn on a dime. Okay, and that's what the definition of agility is here in that respect. Okay, now you can see here there are 5 columns. Okay, and each one of these columns basically constitutes a foundation. Okay, and to become agile, we need to basically have a stable, good data, great business rules, and we need to learn how to use the system to actually do our jobs and to optimize what we're doing. Then and only then can we generate business value. But the thing is, we have to change our mindset. Okay, we have to build planning mindset. Okay, if we are going to be agile, we have to plan to be agile. We have to provide line of sight. Okay, so we need a strategic plan, we need a demand plan, we need a supply plan, we need a manufacturing plan. Do you get it? We need to do a lot of planning. We need to have that mindset. Okay, because planning is what it's all about at the end of the day. And analyzing is how we then start to improve. Okay, so think about it like this. To be able to do it properly, we need to have end-to-end integration, all the way through, from strategic to the shop floor, out the door to our customer. Everybody has to be using one system of record, because otherwise we're basically going a blind alley without any hope. Okay, because if we cannot use one system of record and everybody else is using personal information systems, then effectively you're not integrated, which means then that you probably haven't got good data integrity and your business rules aren't aligned because everybody has their own idea of how they want to do things. Okay, so we have to integrate, we have to use one system of record, and then we have to have patience. Okay, because quite simply, agility or FIV doesn't come overnight, right? We need to make sure that we are stable. We need to make sure that our data is good. We need to make sure that our data matches our business rules and everybody adheres to those business rules. And then the big one here in terms of optimization is that we need to make sure that everybody understands how to use SAP to do their jobs. Okay, it's not just a transactional financial piece of software. It is a tool to help you do your job. So you need to make sure it's stable. You need to make sure the data inside of it is basically what reflects reality. That was very bad English, wasn't it? The data should reflect reality, okay? And the rules that you govern your business with, the processes should and need to be adhered to, right, from a master data perspective and those kind of things. And then an education piece, not a training piece, an education piece around how to actually use the system to do your jobs. And then, and only then, can you truly say that you are agile. Up until that point, okay, you're obviously working towards it, but you know, true agility comes when 1, 2, 3, and 4 are at their maximum. Okay, so just to paint that little picture in terms of agility. All right, yeah. What I want to show you now is how an agile supply chain can increase operational excellence or help towards operational excellence. Okay, so think about it like this. Okay, think about everybody using the same information from top to bottom. Yeah, that's a big thought. Okay, in terms of, yeah, I've got my Excel spreadsheet, I'm planning outside of the system, my demand's not in there. I know I've got the demand because it's over here, and you know, Joey's got the purchasing side of the world sewn up, but we're not integrated. We're not using one system of record. Okay, it's vitally important if we are going to become agile, if we are going to increase operational excellence, that everybody is singing from the same production plan. Okay, what I mean by that is that we must have demand management in place. We must have some kind of tool that balances supply with demand. In this case, it's MRP. Okay, we must have a production plan. We must have a purchasing plan that provides for that production plan. So I'm going to ask you some questions, okay, that hopefully will provoke some thought within your organization. Okay. The first question, yeah, I have this statement, I use it a lot. It basically says that demand is king. Everything we do is because we have a demand for it, okay? We've got to get past the QCD world, okay, in terms of manufacturing just making what they want. We've got to get into that flexible, innovative, high velocity world where we are making what we have demand for and nothing else, okay? We might want to make a bit of safety stock and that kind of stuff, but ultimately we want to be able to make what we have demand for, which is great, right? Again, maybe a bit of a paradigm shift from an old school manufacturing perspective. I mean, I've been a plant manager. I know what it's like to say, keep the line running, make sure that we recover some of that overhead, right? But if I'm making stuff I don't need, then, you know, it's a little bit of a false economy, okay? So one of the big things that we have to ask ourselves moving into operational excellence is, what are we in terms of demand? Are we make to stock? Are we assemble to order? Are we make to order? Okay. Can you put your hand on your heart and honestly say that all of the data inside of your finished goods, material masters, reflect the exact planning strategy for that particular product? Or have we got this sweeping, we are make to stock approach, or hey, we think we're make to order, but we're going to make some stock anyway, just in case, because I know we're going to get some orders. okay, we have to be clear and concise at what we are from a demand management perspective. Okay, and there's a big reason for that. Okay, that reason effectively is because we need to make sure that we can talk to our customers. Yeah, so think about it in this way. From a sales order perspective, we have this lovely little bit of functionality called available to promise. It's juxtaposed right alongside our manufacturing strategies, our demand strategies, right? Because ATP works according to the planning strategy of a particular material. Okay, so again, a big educational piece from a customer service perspective in terms of, have I got my ATP set up to actually match what I have in demand management? Have I actually got the right planning strategy against all of my products? So, you know, it might be that I make 10,000 products, or it might be I make 10 products or 1,000 products, right? Each individual product has to have planning strategy, and it has to have the correct ATP. Okay, and there's only one, or I say there's only one reason. The reason for this, okay, is because we want to be efficient. We want to be able to say to our customer, hey, I can get you this because I know we make to stock and we have some in stock, and I've got the correct ATP, which is a scope of check that says look at stock first. And then if I've got in there my pick, pack, ship details, I will be able to give you a very relevant promise against that particular material so that we can increase our customer satisfaction. Okay. The other thing as well is it's the gateway into the supply chain. Okay, a lot of companies that I've worked with don't use ATP how it's designed. They basically maybe confirm a date that is totally and utterly unrealistic, and then they just throw it over the wall, and then all hell breaks loose on the other side because all of a sudden it's hey, this is a bigger customer than this customer. They need this before them. That is not the way to operational excellence. All right, so we need to start at the very beginning when it comes to operational excellence. Okay, because what we really want to do from a demand perspective is to balance it with trustworthy supply data. Remember, in this day and age, if we're agile, we make what we need, yeah, and we make it when we can make it in time. Okay, that was a little bit garbled there, but the story here is we need to make sure that we can supply trustworthy supply data to make a trustworthy promise against. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, if you have been watching or listening to the webinars, you'll know that the last webinar that went on was by my colleague Christy. She talked all around the exception management side of the world. But if you're going to be agile, then exception management is the way to go, okay? Because it points out where you need to go. As a production planner or as a buyer even, and I have a portfolio of 1,000 materials, I want to come in every day and review those 1,000 materials, or do I want to come in and look at the exceptions? Okay, because already I'm using the system there to provide me with an agile way of actually looking through my portfolio. Now, one of the big things about exception management, I know Christy pointed out, is that it also points out all of your ills, okay? It points out whether you've got incorrect rules and not being behaved to, whether your processes are broken, okay? So immediately, again, what I'm doing here is, if I think about it, I've got my demand in, I've got my sales orders in, I've got good ATP. Now I want to be able to actually supply to that. If I'm using MRP talks to us and tells us where we need to go and look. So immediately, I'm not doing anything other than letting the system show me where to go. I'm not being inefficient. If I've got the data in place, then the outputs of MRP are going to be what I want them to be. So all I have to do is verify them, okay? And as a production planner, we can take those next steps in terms of becoming operationally excellent, okay? So you can see here, we've got a lovely little macro version of a supply chain process. And you can see I've highlighted exception management right there, just before we let loose in terms of production, okay? Because exception management enables us, like I said, to be able to go and find our issue. Now that's from a supply perspective in terms of what MRP does. The next steps are where we take that to another level in terms of operational excellence. right? So everybody still using the same one system of record, all the data's in there. I've done my exception management as a production planner. What I really want to make sure of is that my master data that I have in place, okay, enables me to take this next journey in terms of operational excellence, okay? So I need to make sure that I have all my work centers set up correctly. I need to make sure that I have all my operations or phases inside my routing or my master recipe or my rate routing. They need to reflect reality. I need to make sure that I've got the necessary production versions in place. Now, I need to make sure that I have all of the correct information. So again, all the way through, right? It's all around the data. So here we are. If you remember the 5 columns, we're looking at data integrity now. We're making sure that the outputs of the MRP are correct. Okay, we haven't even started really to delve into the increase in efficiency yet, but we need to have that foundation in place, like I said, for us to be able to see whether or not we can take those next steps. Because at this moment in time, you've probably got all of your, your capacities being done in Excel. You're probably not even scheduling using the scheduling boards. I'm making assumptions here. I'm sure some of you do. Okay, but these next steps are the steps you need to think about if you're going to start talking about operational excellence and the increasing. Okay, so levels of granularity in terms of detail around your master data. Okay, how complex is your process? Is it a 1-phase or 2-phase operation, or is it just one operation, or is it a 6-10 operation? How have you built your master data? Because that is the key then to improving from an operational perspective. Okay, if you've got the data incorrect and it doesn't reflect reality, then you're on a hiding to nothing straight away. So the big exercise here is in column 2 is to remain and make sure that your data becomes integral to the process. Okay, make sure that it reflects reality. Okay, because if you're going to take that next step, okay, and you saw in the macro side of the world that the little red box went down to the capacity planning side of the world. If I've got my work centers or my resources set up correctly, and I've got my lead times and dates and everything from an operational perspective in place, then I can start to use the system to see whether or not from a plant perspective, I actually can achieve the plan. Now, one of the beautiful things about MRP is that it doesn't care about capacity. A lot of people go, well, I want it to. Well, as a production planner of many years back in the day there, I want to be in control of my capacity. Okay, I want to be in control of supplying to that demand. I want MRP to make some great suggestions for me against the data that I've put in place, but ultimately I'm the person who is responsible for getting the job done. I'm using the tool to help me do my job. Okay, and as you can see, it's not the prettiest tool in the world, capacity planning wise. It's a little bit outdated. I was using this 30 years ago. So, but it's powerful. Ugly and powerful is what I call it. Okay, but it enables me to be able to see. It gives me line of sight. It gives me vision. Okay, vision of what I can do and vision of what I can't do. Yeah, I can go into it from a daily perspective. I can look at it from a long-term perspective. I can even turn it into a lead time report. I can get it to show me where I'm overloaded instantly. So again, I'm using the system. I'm using the transactions. I understand. Hey, we've just run MRP. We've just put a new forecast in. We've just run MRP. Show me where my overloads are. Show me where we've got issues. Okay, instead of me having to trawl through it in some kind of Excel spreadsheet, download it from SAP and upload it to this, that, and the other, I have it there. My line of sight is instant. It's not, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, days away, okay, because I've got a new forecast in. I've got all my data set up. I've got all my work centers set up. I've got all the throughput rates correct. I know because I've gone out there and I've measured them. Yeah, I am confident 95% of the data inside of this system, because it'll never be 100%, is good enough for me to make business decisions against. Right. So the first step into operational excellence is knowing what you can't do as well as knowing what you can do. okay? Because I can start these conversations straight away rather than 2 weeks from now, okay? Because we promised that we thought we might be able to get it through the plant, but we didn't because we knew we couldn't because it was just full of red lines, okay? We know exactly what we can or cannot do. That, to me, is line of sight, and we're ahead of the game, okay? Because that's what it's all about at the end of the day, having information at our fingertips. And I haven't done anything special here, just made sure that my housekeeping is up to date, that my data is accurate, yeah, and that I run MRP against the rules and I adhere to those rules. And here you can see some of the rules say that we are overloaded. Okay, so what do I do about it? Yeah, well, effectively, what we really need to do is take that next level and start to actually use the system to schedule, yeah, to do our detailed scheduling, okay? Because this is the beginning of true operational excellence. From a capacity perspective, yeah, I know I can or cannot do something, right? But now, what I can do, I'm gearing to do well, okay? I'm gearing the factory, I'm gearing my business to do it well, okay? But what I do need is a plan that is constrained by capacity. I need to have all my materials available. Yeah, I need to have all my labor available. And I know in some businesses, not all the labor turns up, especially this day and age. Okay, so that's why it's even more critical for us to be able to see now. Okay, how much labor do I really need? Get out there, Mr. HR department, Mrs. HR department. I need another 20 people. I need another 30 people. Right? But we have to have the data in place for us to be able to see that. We have to have the demand in place for us to be able to see that. We have to have everything in place for us to be able to see it. Now, as you can see, there are major benefits to production scheduling, right? Accurate material availability checking, sales order ATP, all that good stuff, all those big advantages. If I put together a plan, okay, that enables me as a business or us as a business to be able to actually achieve it, then we're all pulling in the same direction, right? Because we need to make sure from a business perspective that everybody agrees the plan, okay? So obviously when we have scheduled, we need to make sure that we have all of our parts, okay? So you can see here missing parts information system. I would want to be looking a week out at least. I shouldn't have to worry about what's happening this week because we should have done a four-wall check and scheduled that line or those lines knowing that every material was here. Okay, obviously there's going to be an exception, emergency cases where someone goes and counts something and oh, it's not there. Okay, that's life, that's not going to go away. But we should be planning, we should have that mindset that says I'm going to be managing my business a week or 2 weeks out, and I'm going to let the shop floor do their job, and I'm going to let them hit what we put as a plan together. Okay, so again, back to the real-time side of the world now, okay, because having run many a shop floor, people think that that's the last vestige of humankind, but it's not. To me, it's probably the most important part of the supply chain because we're the last people who really and truly touch that product. We need to make sure that we know what we're doing, i.e. a good, solid production plan. We need to be confident in our purchasing side of the world that they have got all of our materials to us on time. We need to make sure that the warehouse is staging on time. And if we look at the schedule that we've just put together, the warehouse know when I'm going to do it. They know against which line I'm going to do it. Engineering knows when I'm going to do it. They know when that changeover is going to take place. So therefore, we better make sure that there's an engineer there ready to change that line over. Or if it's a line setter, they've got all their materials ready to do that. Are we going to ready to flush this line through? I don't want to have to wait an hour so that I can find somebody who then suddenly thinks, oh, damn, I haven't got the right tools for the job. If we're talking about operational communication now, then what we need is a plan. And you can see here that CMO1 turns nicely into a production plan. And if we're doing real-time confirmations, then if we have this screen up, we'll be able to see, hey, look at that, they haven't done. Why have they started that second job instead of the first job? Questions, right? Information. Yeah, we can see it. It's real time. That's what we want. We don't want to have to come back the next day and say, hey, why did we do that? We are on top of it. We are already, that line of sight is perpetually there. Okay, it's always in motion. You can see it all the time. Okay, but it's having the confidence to get everybody to use SAP and make sure that everybody is running with the same plan. Okay, so let's talk about real time. Yeah, so lots of shop floors. Worked recently, or a year or so ago, with a company that did confirmations monthly, and they thought that they were world class. Okay, so yeah, if you run MRP once a month and you buy once a month, yeah, and you ship once a month, then yeah, you can be world class in that respect. But if you really want to be agile, if you want to have velocity, you want to be innovative, yeah, and you want to make sure that you get the customer what they need when they need it, then it's all about real time. Okay, it's all about understanding. And the shop floor needs to understand as much as anybody else, because if I'm doing confirmations, I want to know that I'm contributing. Okay, I want to know that I'm updating my inventory. So every time MRP runs, it runs against clean information. I want to know if I am reducing the capacities. I want to know if I'm updating the costs, right? It's amazing what one transaction can do and the amount of work it does. Yeah, and then of course it pushes it all into the reporting side of the world. And this is where, okay, if we're taking the last few slides in terms of capacity analysis, the shop floor, scheduling, okay, this is where we now know if we're good at what we do, okay, because that information, that real-time information, I've scheduled an order, I'm going to confirm against that order. So from an on-time in full perspective, okay, I should be able to see order for 10, goods receipts for 10, okay, order for 20, goods receipts for 20, on Wednesday, 10 Wednesday, 20 Wednesday, okay? But we all know that a lot of people have different agendas in the production side of the world. You know, if we're not integrated, those agendas are true, okay? Because, you know, yeah, we see a production plan, but when I get to the shop floor, yeah, the guys on the shop floor are going to go, why have we got it in that order? It's so much more efficient to run it in this order, okay? Well, the reason it's in that order is because that's when our customers need it, okay? And yes, I understand that you say probably 3 changeovers, right? But we've missed a deadline, we've missed a date, we are now a bad supplier, okay? So the secret, the art of planning is to take all of that into consideration as we actually put together that schedule, right? And some of the functionality in the scheduling boards allows us to be able to do that, to group a load of materials and reduce those changeover times, but still get you what you need on time. You might be producing a little bit early, but ultimately, if I'm putting together a schedule that I know all of my materials are here for, then the true art of planning comes into play, okay? And a really good production planner with good tools like the planning boards inside of SAP can save you lots of time and money, okay? So pay attention to those. From the shop floor perspective, there's all of these lovely reports that we can see, okay, that are there. Obviously, they're historical reports, right, because we're waiting for you to report production. But you can see here that we can, at an order level, okay, we can analyze lead times, we can analyze quantity deviations. So there's a lot of good quality information that can come out. We did it early, we did it late, okay. We can get down to an operational level at the same time. Okay, so from a production reporting perspective, I have an order that has 10 operations in it, and yes, guess what? We managed to get the 10 operations, or we managed to get the product out when we should have got it out. Now, if I'm continuing as to use it as a continuous improvement tool, I want to know what part of that order was efficient, what part of that order was inefficient, so I can drive down to an operational level and start looking at the operation 10, operation 20, operation 30, depending on how you set things up. But remember, to be able to use it as a continuous improvement tool, you need to make sure that the data, it reflects the reality that is current at that particular moment in time. If an engineer comes in and manages to, you know, increase the tube filler to, you know, 200 an hour instead of 100 an hour, okay, then you need to change the data to reflect that. But if you're showing that I'm finishing this order early all the time, you need to ask the question, why do I finish it early all the time? That's the continuous improvement piece that basically allows us to be agile. Okay, so you can see there are some lovely graphics that come out here. I call these the candy canes, the red and white stripes. You can see the bottom right-hand side there. Okay, the little white square denotes when we actually scheduled it, and the red lines is when we actually did it. So, you know, a lot of things going on there that can be fixed just visually. You know, companies that I've worked with have put these up against production lines, and, you know, you'd be surprised at just how, you know, proud people can be of their production lines, and you'll suddenly see the improvement naturally because it's just the way that it is. Okay, I've run many a shop floor, you know, and the guys go, "How can we get, you know, was it a good plan? Did you give us a chance?" Right? So that's the communication that you need to be able to improve. Okay, so let's just go through some key steps and then just a quick wrap, and then we'll get into some questions and answers. Okay. So yeah, they're imagining this, eh? Everyone using the same information from top to bottom. Crazy, crazy, but a good thought though. Okay, so these are strategic steps that you need to become agile. Okay, now I know everybody has a strategic plan, right? Business plan, call it what you want, okay, but really and truthfully, we need to get that into one system. We need to treat our demand correctly. So remember, I said, are we make to stock? Are we make to order? Are we assemble to order? Engineer to order? Okay, are we, you know, variant config? But we need to make sure that we've got the right planning strategies in place. Okay, because that then enables us to align supply with demand, right? Okay, we need to employ capacity planning and scheduling at the correct levels, right? So again, it's a case of understanding, where are my bottlenecks? What do I need to manage? Yeah, have I got that reflected in the system? Right. And then of course, the big ones, right? Once we've done MRP, we've done our scheduling, we need to make sure that everybody else is on board for that plan. And I've just singled out procurement here, but ultimately, basically, if it's engineering, if it's quality, all of those people, they need to understand. I need to be ready to do my inline inspections and make sure that I get them done because I'm still producing. I need to have those inspections done so that I can basically say, yes, that's good, or no, that's not good, okay, to be able to use. So everybody needs to know each step and they need to know where they are within that, okay? And then, of course, the big one for me is managed by exception, okay, in the respects that always let the system talk to you and listen to the system and trust the system because the data's good. Focus on ensuring that delivery dates are met, okay, that's that on-time full thing, okay, where, you know, someone higher up's going to go, hey, our customer service is only 35%, what can we do about it? Yeah, okay, so the way to do that, okay, the way to increase that, okay, from an agility perspective, okay, is make sure that you have as accurate as you possibly can from a forecast perspective. You want to be able to get people to order, you know, basically enter their orders in a timely manner. You know, if you've got a portal and people are just chucking orders in, have I got the right ATP strategies in place? Have I got the right checks? Am I giving them, or am I giving our production a chance? You know, this type of material is 8 days. This type of material is 16 days. That's very generic, okay? And it might not be the case for all materials. So you have to be very specific. We need to make sure that we're running MRP effectively, okay? That all our data is good and that we are doing exception management. We have to have capacity planning in place. That's the first step to saying yes or no. Then we start to attack that efficiency, okay, or inefficiency, should I say. Finite scheduling, that's the foundation around which we can then start to gear improvements from, okay. Make sure that purchasing's part of that plan, okay. We need to make sure that materials management, inventory control are keeping that cycle counting going, are keeping, you know, that staging and everything going, okay. We need to make sure that the shop floor ultimately says, oh yeah, even though I run this, I change over and now I run that, and then I run it again, I need to do it in this order because there's a customer waiting for it, okay. We need to have ownership and accountability. We need to make sure that we have meaningful KPIs. We don't want to measure ourselves into oblivion. simple, sweet, easy, powerful KPIs. And then a good understanding of the analytics, a good understanding of the system's capabilities. Education is the key in that respect. Okay, so just to wrap it up, and then we can take some questions. I just want us all to remember, okay, that we just don't know how important it is. You need to know the importance of the correct planning strategies to improve your customer experience, because they work hand in hand with your customer experience, okay? We need one system of record to speed up the line of sight. Yeah, I've showed you that line of sight can be quick and easy once all the hard work's done, which is all of my data is correct, all of my rules are in place, all of my behaviors are, there, okay? And then, and only then, do you truly get that line of sight that you need to be able to increase that operational efficiency, right? Okay, and real-time information is critical. Yeah, if you want to be able to march forward, or march looking forward, not looking backwards, okay, because everything we do is in retro. No, we want to be able to say, yeah, I know I'm up to date, I've done it, I've been what that order, I finished it, CMO1's up to date, everything is there, it's good. Okay, so just a quick half hour there, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so I'm going to open the floor up now to any questions. What do I need to do here?
Are you ready for questions, David?
I'm ready for questions.
All right, thank you. So I do have someone chimed in here, and they're referencing your slide number 27, which was your missing parts report. And they were just wondering if you could refresh them. What transaction is that missing parts display report?
Yep, CO24.
Okay, thank you.
And I've seen the menu path as well, but I don't remember the menu path.
Great, thank you, David. The next question we received said, is there anything special we need to do to get production reporting?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you saw just a second ago the type of reporting that's available. You've got graphics, you've got, at order level, you've got operational level, and everything that's inside of the logistics information system or the production order information system comes from real-time, or should I say from confirmations or backflushing. Okay, so to get that, what you need to do is make sure that you have your logistics information actually turned on, okay, and that real-time or production confirmations are taking place. The definition of real-time can vary, it's each pallet or at the end of a shift, that kind of thing, but make sure that it's timely and accurate.
Great, thanks, David. And then it looks like we have another note here from the audience. Hi, is it about capacity planning? They got a note from SAP that is no longer maintained, and should they be moving to IBP for supply? What are your thoughts about that?
That's a good question. So from an S4 perspective, I'm gathering, well, as far as I'm aware, and I do believe that CMO1, CMO2, 3, 4, 5 to 7 are still in the latest versions of S4HANA. But ultimately, IBP is a great piece of software that will do all of this. So the premise here, really and truthfully, I say do capacity planning, is do capacity planning, but do it in an integrated system. Okay, so if you're integrated fully, then carry on. Okay, but the premise again is to make sure that I have that vision to be able to actually see what's going on. Yeah.
All
Great
right,
question.
David. One last question here from the audience is, can we use the graphical planning boards if we are repetitive?
That's a brilliant question. And the answer is yes. Okay, so it's all in the configuration. But if you're using MF50, then effectively the scheduling boards are in MF50. There's a little button that looks like a Gantt chart. Okay, if you click that, then the graphical planning boards will come up. You may still need to configure the real estate so that it looks like, you know, or so that you can understand it, I guess. But ultimately, yeah, in MF50 you have the planning boards there. But also, what you can do, even if you are repetitive, is you can change from a rate routing, or you can change your rate routing to use detailed capacity planning, which allows you then to use CMO1 in basically without having to click on the repetitive profile. And the planning board, should I say, as well, because that'll bring them through. So there's a little bit of configuration. Have a word with your IT department and get them to explore the options.
All right, David, it looks like that is the last question we have for today. So thank you everybody for your questions. And we will have this webinar available later today on our website under resources if you need to go back and reference that. And then we also have some other resources there, just some educational content such as our white papers, blogs, and some insightful publications that are there for your review and to take a look at. Just a reminder, actually, we are going to be hosting two SAP supply chain boot camps coming up. We have one virtual event that will be in December of 2021. And then we have a in-person event coming up in February of 2022. And our location is still to be determined, but we will be sending that information out within the next month and how to go about registering for these events. So please stay tuned for more information. And then we do have our next webinar, which will be November 17th. How can an agile supply chain help us with our digital S/4HANA journey? And this is going to be presented by Martin Rowan. And we'll also get this out to you as well in advance so you can get registered. And thank you everybody again for attending. Have a great day and we'll see you guys soon.
Yes, thank you very much. Have a great day.